Hey folks, Jonathan here. Alright, so I think what we're going to do now is we're going to do a teardown on this engine and see what all issues we have. We know it's not stuck, which is already up an advantage because I'd hate to be beating pistons out of this thing. But let me explain another thing too I wanted to tell. The 5-inch bore spacing. The reason I had mentioned that these valve covers are about 3 inches longer than a small block Chevrolet. Okay, for anybody that don't know what bore spacing is. So that's where the center of the piston and the center of the piston, the 5 inches apart. So instead of being like a small block's way closer, even a big block Chevrolet is not 5-inch bore spacing. Having 5-inch bore spacing means that you can get by with a lot more stuff when it comes to boring. My understanding is you used to be able to get over 500 cubic inches out of these engines. But that's all that's about. Really surprised not to have the Packard on the valve covers. And I guess, maybe they didn't do that. I thought they did it on, even though these are Studebakers. These was probably, it's looking like they may have been chrome, like the other ones I got on my other car. Years and years of sitting has lost all that, of course. I think what we're going to do is we're going to get the valve covers off first, take a look and see how bad it is, because I know there's going to be some valves stuck. I don't have a doubt of that. And when it was rolling over, I could hear them ting hard, and usually that means they're shutting hard because they're sticking in, and then they're popping and coming out. So I want to pull the heads on this, and then I'm probably going to pull the fan and the pistons. Feel sure that this engine has not ran since the early 70s, and by everything that was in the car, that's pretty much what we've got it dated to. Looks like we got some rust in there, huh? So I've got a feeling that it probably has been that long, at least in the 70s sometime. So we're going to get these valve covers off, plug wires out of the way, and then at least we'll be able to see what we've got going on with the push rods, lifters. Hopefully we don't have any bent push rods. We might have. If we do, it's probably my own fault because I cranked this thing over, but I've got some extra push rods, so hopefully I didn't destroy anything. Probably should have just went down there on the crankshaft and turned it, but kind of excited to see what it was going to do. And I'd seen that somebody had already done a little work on the battery box and all that stuff, so I kind of figured they probably already turned it over anyway. So it wasn't a big issue. All right, so let's get at it. I like their little clip that they made out of wire. We can get it off. There is our tack drive. So this goes on it. Our rotor button, and then we can take this one off. And it drives. We got one holding on the other side. I don't want to move. There we go. Well, it's sticking on there, but anyway, it slides down over to the piece of the distributor like that. And we'll get her off there, and I'll show you the entire thing later. But like I said, they're very, very expensive to get, and I don't have one on the other. And I'm not too worried about it really, because I don't mind it not having a tack, especially when it would cost me $500 to do it right, or for something. Let's see, get these wires out of the way. Already looking like it's easy to get through. These are really, really easy engines to work on. And we'll go ahead and I'll pull all the valve cover bolts out off camera here, and then we'll pull them off and I'll show you. Alright folks, all the bolts are out. This shows you how bad the heater hoses are, to give you an idea. That's how long this thing's been sitting. They're just hard as a rock. I went to move it out of the way and it just broke. So let's see if we can get this loose. Well, not too Quaker stated up. I don't feel any of them loose. I don't see any push rods offset over to the side like they're bent. Don't know. Let's check the other side. Gasket. Valves open. Valves open, but the as you can see, the push rod is not. All right. There's another one. So we got two on this side. Now this is where you get into the debate as to whether, because I know the cylinders are not full of them, you know, a mess like a lot of them get when they get water in them. I don't think so. So it wasn't stuck at all. Well, not on my watch. It could have been on the other guys. But so what do? I mean, do we go ahead and get these valves freed up, try to put a little bit of stuff on them, and then see if I can make it do a first start? Or do we wait? So we know we got two stuck, but I swear the sound of it was worse than that. It may have 6 with compression. I guess I can get a battery and put back in it and roll it over and see what it looks like. And then I've got some stuff, special mixed up stuff here I might put on them valves and see maybe if we can get them freed up. I don't know. Everyone knows how much I like to do first starts, but I don't know if I want to or not. Big debate. All right, let's see. All right, folks, made an executive decision. We're going to pull them. We're going to pull the heads off. I don't want to do it without it because I don't plan on, this is not one I'm just going to start up to see if it runs and all that good stuff. I plan on possibly driving this thing. And so let's go ahead and start getting stuff out of the way. And I don't think this thing's ever been apart. It's still got all the pieces on the exhaust with the bent over, I don't know what you call them, locks, but I don't think the engine's ever been apart. I doubt it very seriously. So it's been long enough that it's set that I don't want to damn take a chance on it. And I don't know, there's always a possibility this thing was stuck hard, and the guy that I got it from, where it come from the barn, you know, from the looks of doing the battery box, so somebody had started messing with it. So let's hope they didn't, you know, force anything too bad. The belt was already broke on it, so let's hope they didn't force anything too bad to get it unstuck. And we'll go ahead and get it pulled down. I'll get the intake off. We'll get started on that. All right folks, carburetor's off. Don't look too bad in there. Could be much worse. You can see a little bit of water in front and back, but that's probably where I pressure washed. So I think we can get we're gonna get the oil filter and the intake off, and then we'll attack the water pump and housing. The pump's just in the front here, but we'll get the whole housing off and out of the way, and then that'll leave us with the exhaust manifolds and the heads and just some little brackets and such. But not a bad job on these things. It's really, like I said, it's just not a tough engine to work on. And let's see if we can get her knocked out. All right folks, intake is off and all the cylinders look oily for all the ports. They don't look rusty at all, so I don't think there's going to be an issue when it comes to whether there was rust in the cylinders or not. I think we just got stuck valve problems and possibly stuck ring problems. I watched Scott's video this morning saying they got the engines torn down, and if you want to watch some entertaining, and of course you'll learn something from it also, but definitely entertaining, Cold War Motors, and it is the V8 challenge. They've done a straight 8 challenge about a year ago, I think, a little more. Real enjoyable. So now they're doing a V8 challenge, and I had mentioned in the last video, but I didn't say a whole lot about it. But what they've got is a flathead Ford, and been sitting for a long time. Pulled it apart. It's pretty rough. And they've got a Studebaker, and it's a little newer than this one, 58 I think, but it's got the 259 Studebaker engine, not the Packard engine. And few little differences, well, the engine's completely different, but I mean, they're basically, both V8 engines, one's flathead and one's overhead valve. So the flatheads are notorious for overheating. To tell you a quick little story that a buddy of mine that's long passed away told me, so he's not around to tell it anymore, but he used to race in the early 50s Oldsmobiles. I think it was the 303s, and he used to race them against some of the flathead V8 cars. And he said that one night at the race, one of the flathead guys rolled his car into the infield, and it went into the pond and boiled all the water out of the pond. And that's how bad they overheated. And that was his story. So, and we know it didn't happen, but it sure was funny when he told it. So anyway, we're going to get this tore down, but go check out Cold War Motors. And this is kind of weird because this is what I'd be doing either way, and this is just falling right in line with what they're doing on them V8s. So not close enough to them to get in on the challenge, but I guess we could do it Bluetooth. How about that? But all right, let's get back to work. We're going to do this bottom radiator hose. I just wanted to see Alright folks, now maybe you'll learn from my stupidness here, and I'm thinking I wasn't the first one to roll this over, but if I was, I bent the push rods. Somebody bent the push rods, and it's not good because 4 of them there are bent, so I've got to fight them out. We're about ready to pull the head off, but anyway, learn from my mistakes. Should have just pulled it down and took it apart, but kind of excited, so how that goes. But I bet that there's probably at least 5 of them are stuck on this one. We'll tap it with a hammer here shortly and we'll find out. Alright, I ended up pulling the valley pan cover off just because the push rods was being a big pain in the butt trying to get out. And when I was pulling on them, they were springing back, and now I know why. They were pulling against this cover, and the springs on the bottom of the cover was pulling up and then releasing, and I wasn't sure if I was pulling a lifter out of the hole or what was going on. All right, we got it. We got her now. Yeah, not quite as well. It's not great. It's not quite as bad as that flathead V8, but it is pretty rough. Yeah, lifters don't feel too bad. They're actually springing. So we're going to do the shock vac deal with that too, and no doubt about it. But now we know why we couldn't get the lifter to come out, or the push rod to come out, I'm sorry. They're bent so daggone bad. So that leaves us with a lot of bent push rods, but a lot of stuck valves too, which is no problem. So push rods we got, get shop vac and get that cleaned up. I don't want any more falling in that's already there. And then let me, we'll get them push rods out and try to go ahead and get some heads off this thing. I can see now that cam looks pretty dry, so we're going to try to get some oil on that. And it's, there's no surface rust or anything like that anywhere, but it just looks dry. And I can see now the oil line's busted on this one too. I happen to have a new one for my other car, but we may use it on this one, order another one, because the other mine's not leaking. I don't trust rubber oil lines after a lot of years. So, but I don't think it's been as many years on the other car. So let's see what we can do here. I think we went the right direction by turning it down, because these valves are definitely stuck. Let me see. Stuck, 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 not stuck, stuck. Two of them not stuck. So there you go. 6 out of 8 on that side is stuck. And probably just as bad on this side. It wouldn't surprise me. So I know why we only had compression on 1 or 2 cylinders now. So not a problem. We'll get her apart. Look at the push rod on that side. Bent, bent. Second one back, bent. And that's all from cranking it over with the valves being stuck with the starter. I don't know who was dumb enough to do that, but anyway, could have been me. As long as we didn't cause any other trouble, I don't mind. You know, it's not a big issue to change push rods. All right, don't turn your engines over like that. Learn from my mistakes, not making your own. All right, folks, we got that head over there loose, but ain't got all the exhaust bolts out yet. I'm having some issues, so I may end up going under and getting it. But got this side. It's a shame that side's closer than this side. This side with the steering on it, but there's a couple bolts there. I'll show you here. Really hard to get to. They're underneath of that. Now I can take that bracket off, but I don't know if it's going to help us or not. But that'll be the next step. I don't think it's going to, because that's part of the exhaust manifold. But bolts in the back, there's one left. It ain't too bad. I can get it. But like I said, these up here, I'm not sure if I'm going to have to go through the wheel well or what. But there's just no room. Let's get this head off and see what it looks like either way. Hopefully them cylinders are not all pitted up and stuff. Hopefully somebody else didn't try to crank this thing over before me, which they might have, and that could be why them push rods was so bent. But I don't know. We'll see. It's way easier to blame it on somebody else, ain't it? Yeah, these ain't light either. Nothing light about Packard stuff. Remind you of a damn steam engine. Alright, I can definitely tell it's been messed with. It's got brand new spark plugs in it. It's never been fired with them, so. The coil being off and the battery box being messed with, somebody tried to start it, I'm sure. So I'm not going to blame myself for bending them push rods. I'm going to at least blame it on somebody else. Because somebody's definitely been messing with it, because it wouldn't have new spark plugs in it. So there's 2 valves on this head stuck. There was 2 bent push rods. And I think, like I said, we got 6 on the other side. That's not too bad. A little bit of rust on that rear cylinder. I'm not real worried about what I see here. I don't even have really a ring ridge. I'd say that 60,000 miles is probably, or 65 is probably original miles on it. Let's see, head gasket on here or the other? On here. Steel head gasket. Keep that compression up. We don't need that thick stuff on there, right? Just carbon. We get the shop vac and clean it up a little bit. Well, I don't see anything to be alarmed about. I'll go ahead and see if I can get some rings on the way and clean one of them pistons off and just make sure that it's standard. I'm sure it is. This engine I have no doubt that it's never been taken apart, but we'll look that over and make sure, and then order some rings. Now I used Ford 302 rings in the other one because you can't get the rings for them, but they were the right thickness or width, so that's probably what we'll go back with on this one. Anyway, let me see if I can get this other head off. Okay folks, here's how much taking that bracket off helped. None at all. It's gonna be fun. Hopefully don't have them blips bent on it, because that's going to be the issue. Not necessarily getting them out, it's the trying to get them ears bent off of it. Just keep fighting with it before we jack it up and break off studs or cut exhaust pipes. Really would like to save the downpipes. You remember how I told you these engines was easy to work on, right? I might have lied. Good possibility. Same thing, don't feel too bad. Little tiny bit of rust in that cylinder. Quite a bit of rust in the head. Alright, front cylinder, as you can see, again, all new spark plugs. And this one did have some water get in it. But that's okay. So we're going to do whatever we got to do on the valves. And hopefully we can get by with what we got. If not, we'll order what we need. I'm going to go ahead and get a gasket kit on the way. And probably rings. So we're just going to do the minimum. We're going to check these pistons. There are a set of used pistons, I think $5 a piece on eBay if for some reason I find a bad one. And we'll measure, you know, like anything else, it's all about tolerance. And just so everybody knows, you know, I got flack the last time. I'm sure I'll get it this time. I've already gotten it actually this time about pulling the engine out to do this job. If I was going to pull the crank, absolutely I would, but I have no plans to pull the crank. This stuff was built in the 50s and back to be built, to be rebuilt in place. And if you realize all the 6 cylinders, the pans would come right off. A lot of times, that's why there's so many portable boring bars around. You know, nobody bores portable anymore, but why would there be portable boring bars? Well, that was because everybody went to the garages, and the machine shop would go to the garages and bore the engine right in the car. And I've even got a friend that's got a crank grinder that does one journal at a time while the engine's still in the car. So that's the way it used to be. And I mean, there's nothing wrong with doing that now. And I understand that a lot of people would pull this out and completely rebuild it and go through it and clean it and restore it. But you know, it goes right back to where you stop. I don't have the money to do this car complete. You know, I could do it. I could make it a $60,000 car if I had $100,000 to put into it. But I'm not going to do it. We're going to get this thing running, and that's about it. I mean, you know, maybe drive it around a little bit, and you know, maybe pass it on to somebody else to restore or do whatever they want with it. But I'm not making it into a money pit. I'll let somebody else do that. So anyway, next video we'll be pulling the pan, pulling the pistons out, and like I said, I'm going to go ahead and try to get some of the stuff on the way that I know I need. These fuel pumps are notorious for going bad sitting. The last one I used a 6.2 diesel fuel pump. I just changed the arm on it. We'll probably do the same thing with this one. I'll just see if I can pull the arm off of this one and put it on a new diesel pump. That'd be $20. And let me see. I don't know if it might come apart. It might be able to get a diaphragm for that pump. It's hard to say, but we've got to check these lines real good, because so far anything on the car rubber wise is hard as a rock and no good. So there's 2 rubber lines right there going from the frame over, and that's transmission lines, and so we're going to check them good. There's probably 1 rubber one coming from the frame up to the fuel pump. We'll check it out, and then of course the gas tank, we're probably just going to pull it and change it out. I know that other one's good. It's not a terrible tank. I thought when I bought that other car that somebody had, and Roy, actually the guy I got it from, I thought he had put that sealer in it, and I don't like the sealer. The sealer lasts 10 years and then goes away, and you know, gets into your carburetor and your fuel lines and messes you all up. So I like a good fuel tank, and I thought that he had done the sealer in it. So I went ahead and bought a new one and put on it, and then when I got it off I realized that he didn't do the sealer on it. It's never had it done, and it's actually in pretty good shape. So, and that was an expensive fuel tank, so luckily I got it for this one. Now, tell you another thing. The carburetor on the 39 Chevrolet, a lot of you may remember it. Here's our 39. So we've got our new windows in for it. We've just got to start putting them in. Carburetor on this car, this might sound crazy, but this car was wrecked and parked in 1971, and it was never driven after that. It was never started. It would just sit in the barn. So So when I've got it, I brought it home, started on compression tests because I wanted to show people that an engine sitting for all that time is not going to have much compression, and it didn't. I think we had 15 pounds on most cylinders, but as we cranked it and we started getting the carbon and rust off the seats of the valves, it started increasing in compression. And then once we got it up to where it would start, or where we thought it would start, that's when we went ahead and started putting fuel to it and all that. Okay, so this is 1971. It's 52 years ago, and that carburetor has not been taken apart. I did not pull anything off that carburetor. I did not take it apart. The difference is, now the gas tank had holes rusted in it, but it wasn't corroded up. The difference is leaded gas from, let's say, pre-72, pre-73, whatever time they changed over. The pre-leaded gas, when it evaporated out, it just left. And, whatever it left in it, whether it be lead or whatever, did not harm the carburetors at all. This car will start up right now and run and drive. And I still have not taken that carburetor apart. Fuel bowl, took it off, cleaned it, put it back on, and ran it. And that is amazing, 52 years of sitting in a barn. So, if we're lucky, this other car is the same way, because I think early 70s is when they stopped driving it. So anyway, let's do a start on this. Okay. So, as you can see, I got windows piled in it and parts and stuff for this thing. And as you can see, the floor's messed. So the plan for this car is a front seat, interior, and I want to do the wood grain on the dash and all that, and the wood grain paint. I'm going to try that stuff again, and I want to do the windows, of course. But this is 6-volt system. Nothing's changed on it from original. We don't have a brake pedal anymore. This is vacuum. This is a neat little fan. So a lot of people have seen that before. So we'll pump it a few times and then hit the pedal. Of course, this is the starter on this. Feels so good. So wouldn't it be nice if we still had leaded fuel? You wouldn't have your fuel boiling in your carburetor like it does. You wouldn't have all the other issues that you have. But kind of crazy that it lasted that long and that it's still okay. So, all right, let's get back to the other car. We're going to call that a video, and we'll start ripping this thing apart probably tomorrow and see if we can get the fan off and start getting stuff cleaned up and start getting ready to hopefully put back together if everything checks out good. And anyway, so I just got word from a friend of mine that I got disqualified for the V8 challenge. They said I couldn't speak Canadian, so guess that's that. All right, appreciate everybody watching. Till next time, bye.